Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Album of the Year. Today, we're at 1996, plowing our way through the 90s. It's hard to believe. It seems like yesterday that we started this whole kind of countdown through our favorite albums, starting in 65, and man, it was 30 years ago. Holy cow. 30 years ago, 30 days ago. So we will actually get through this fairly quickly. So we've got, not a long time left. So we'll probably be done by the end of June. We'll be done with this, ready to move on to other stuff. But this has been fun. I've actually had a good time with this because it really makes you go back and kind of look at all the years in music since the 65, since we started, and to see exactly so much good stuff. So much good stuff coming out every year, regardless of what is your favorite decade. I mean, I know for me, the 70s and most of the 80s are my favorites. But there's been surprisingly, when you go back and look, surprisingly a lot of good stuff to choose from in the 90s. We'll see how the 2000s are, right? Because that's coming up next week, as a matter of fact. All right, so my number one here was a pretty easy pick. Like I said, sometimes when we're getting prepared to do these shows, I start looking at what the next couple of days are ahead, and I say, oh yeah, 96. I know exactly what that one's going to be. Again, 90s, 2000s, not that long ago, so I think for me, a lot of the albums that I was really digging back then when they first came out, I have a good sense of, am I still enjoying them today? Because it really wasn't that long ago. And in this instance, I still enjoyed this one just as much as I did when it first came out. For me, this was a terrific comeback for the band who had overcome a little bit of adversity with one of their guitar players. Okay, he left the band in a big huff. They struggled a little bit to try and find a replacement. They eventually did. They found a guy that most people were like, not sure how good of a fit that's going to be. Because the stuff he's done prior doesn't sound anything like this particular band, a legendary band. But you know what? Very quietly, he has filled in quite admirably. They've released a whole bunch of albums since he's been in the band, and he's now been in the band, a long time, way longer than his predecessor. And I think he's done a fantastic job. And you probably have already guessed what I'm going to talk about here. This album is released February 17th, 1996 in Europe, April 1996 in the U.S., on RCA, BMG, CMC International, depending on the territory. Produced by the band, we're talking about Perpendicular by Deep Purple. A handful of you did predict my choice here. You guys know me pretty well. I mean, I have long talked about my love for this album, and you guys know my love for Deep Purple. So, again, the first album with Mr. Steve Morse in the band. He has been there ever since. He has done a fine job. What, like I said, on paper, what seemed like an odd pairing really has worked. And I think more importantly, whether you kind of disavow all the output of the band post Blackmore leaving, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, if Blackmore's not in the band, there's no Deep Purple. I'm a true lover of this band, and I was a huge Morse fan before he joined. All right, I love the Dixie Dregs and the Steve Morse band and his brief time in Kansas. So for me, this was kind of like a no-brainer, and he adds a different element. And quite frankly, they've released a lot of really good albums since he's joined, including this one. This first one might be one of the strongest. It's definitely up there, and it's definitely a top 3. Okay, you got Vavoom, Ted the Mechanic, great rockin' song. They play that live for a bit. You got Loosen My Strings, Soon Forgotten. The amazing, my favorite song off the album, Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming, which for me is just classic Deep Purple with some sizzling emotional guitar work from Mr. Morse. Cascades, I'm Not Your Lover Now, right? The Aviator. Morse's flavors all over that tune. Rose's Cantina, fun, up-tempo, groovy rock tune. Castle Full of Rascals, A Touch Away, Hey Cisco, Somebody Stole My Guitar, great riffs on that, and the Perpendicular Waltz to kind of finish it all off. Very, very strong album, I think. Memorable songs. Ian Gillan, maybe not quite sounding like the Gillan of old, but still sounded pretty good on this album. The whole rest of the band, John Lord, Ian Pace, Roger Glover, doing a fine job. I'm a big fan. And I'm a big fan of all the Morse era albums. like some better than others, obviously, but I think they're all really, really solid, two very strong, and I can't wait for the new one coming out. It was supposed to come out in June, but looks like it's going to be a little delayed there. So my runner-up was Not So Easy, a challenge. Yeah, not so easy. And in fact, coming up to record time here this morning, I was listening to both of them again because I did the same thing yesterday, and I just, as you can tell, I have two. I could not separate either one of them. I could not leave one of them off. So I'm going to pull a mulligan today. I got a tie for my runner-up because I enjoy both of these albums. I think they both deserve a mention, and just going to do it, right? So. Part of my tie for my runner-up is Dark Saga by Iced Earth. Signed by the band there. Yep, I dig this. Great U.S. traditional metal / power metal / thrash, whatever you want to call Iced Earth. A fantastic album, a really melodic album for them. Very moody songs on this album. Of course, you know that can tell. The Todd McFarlane artwork there. Really like this album a lot, and for me, this perfectly set up the Something Wicked This Way Comes album. I think those two albums really are, favorites of mine. I dig them quite a bit, and I like the moody kind of atmospheric, melodic, Iced Earth stuff quite a bit. The other one, my dance partner in the tie here for my runner-up is probably not a surprise for many. In fact, a lot of you picked me to pick this album as my favorite, Test for Echo by Rush. An album that I think divides some fans. I like it. It's not a top tier Rush album, but it's a really good one. It's a really good one, I think. For me, I talked about it the other day with Counterparts, and then I'm going to talk about it now. It's like, for me, these two, the Counterparts album and this album, for me, were a return to more harder rocking sounds from Rush, with a lot of the kind of textures and atmosphere of those kind of mid to late 80s albums. I've always kind of been a little hard on, Hold Your Fire, Power Windows, Presto, and Roll the Bones, although there's fine songs on all of those. But for me, a lot of those albums were missing that kind of Alex Lifeson muscle, and I think this album has quite a bit of that. I don't think the songs on this album are quite as immediate and catchy as on Counterparts, but I still like it a lot, and this is an album that I go back to more often because I think this is an album full of really good deep cuts, okay? And I think really strong deep cuts, and I think there's a lot of variety and texture on this album that I really dig a lot, Driven. It's a lot of good songs. I was just thinking about the riff to that song. It's excellent. So anyway, there's my tie for runner-up, but my numero uno is Perpendicular by Deep Purple for 1996. You can see my reflection there. There we go. So you know how it goes, guys. We want to hear your favorite or favorites from this calendar year, 1996. So you can list that in the comments below in case you're interested in some of my other things that I was pontificating over here. Porcupine Tree, Signify almost made the runner-up as well. When that album came out, I was big into it. I actually don't like Signify nowadays as much as I like some of the stuff that came after it. So that's one of the reasons why that didn't make the grade. Opeth Morning Rise, another one. Let's see, what else we got here? Dimmu Borgir, Stormblast, Halloween, The Time of the Oath, Edge of Sanity, Crimson. Great concept album from those death metal legends. What else? Amorphous Elegy. ZZ Top's Rhythmine, love that. Dio, Angry Machines, Tool, Enema. Arion, Actual Fantasy, Yes, Keys to Ascension, Nevermore, The Politics of Ecstasy, so on and so forth. A lot of good stuff from that year. So I'm sure 1997 will be just as difficult, right? Because none of these are really... I can't honestly say that any of these have been easy. Maybe one or two along the way have been, kind of no-brainers for me. But most of them, I really got to think. So anyway, what's coming up, you might ask? A lot. By request... And I actually thought I had done this a while ago, but I guess I did not. I had one viewer who asked, are you ever going to do a top 10 show on Asia or Pat Benatar? And I was like, well, check out the playlist, man, because I've done both. And then I went and looked, and I did do a Pat Benatar, okay? But I thought I did an Asia one, but I have not. So that's coming up today. Top 10 songs from Asia. All right, the kind of progressive pop supergroup. All right, and also coming up, so we got tomorrow, we got more favorite album of the year. This weekend is jam-packed with stuff. Okay, we've got guest stars galore this weekend. So Saturday, Martin Popoff is coming back. We are going to rank the studio catalog of Ted Nugent. That's coming Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, getting the Metal Gang together. So we got Elliot Fulham from Little Punk People, Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records. We got Steve Keeler from Rock Fantasy. We are going to rank the studio albums of Slayer. Jack Toledano is coming back Saturday as well. We are going to do top 10 songs from Manowar. And then hopefully I can have Sunday off. And that's all coming up this weekend. Future shows, we've got over the next couple weeks, Stephen Reed's coming back on the show. We are going to do, oh man, he's gonna rank the catalog of the Wild Hearts, because I know he's a big fan. I know we've got some fans there on the channel. I don't know anything about the Wild Hearts, so that's going to be him running the show on that particular one. We are also going to do some stuff for Threshold. Top 10 songs for Europe. Okay, that's all coming with Steven. John Theodore's coming on the show soon, too. We got to figure out a date. We're going to rank the classic albums of the Moody Blues. Steve Fleck is also coming back on the show. He and I are going to be doing some shows on, Marillion. Okay, we're going to do top 10 songs on Marillion. We're going to, do a show on the Outlaws. I'm trying to remember everything that I'm working on with all these people. It's just, it's getting crazy. Jack Toledano also coming back in a couple of weeks. We're going to top 10 songs or rank the albums. I don't remember which one, for Primal Fear. We got a lot of power metal fans on here asking for more power metal. So we're going to try and deliver that. And also, I'm going to kind of spill the beans, all right, on another new show segment that we're going to do. I just figured out the name of it, all right, and again, it's kind of something I've started doing, a year or two ago, and I kind of didn't take it too far, because I think I kind of centered it on albums, but I think I got a nice comment from one of the viewers who I think kind of got me back on track to what I want to do with this idea. So basically, the show is going to be called Deep Cut Dive. And whereas in the past I did like deep cuts on classic albums, that didn't really take off too well, and I kind of just cast that by the wayside. Instead, what I'm going to do, and this is also partly inspired by the Jethro Tull episode I did yesterday, where we looked at like some of my favorite tracks from the Jethro Tull archives and rarities and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to do this show is going to be focused on bands where I'm going to talk about. In other words, for someone who's coming who maybe only knows the radio hits or the greatest, the radio hits or the greatest hits compilation track lists from known bands, I'm going to talk about the best of the deep cuts for some of these bands. Okay, so in other words, whoever. So for Led Zeppelin, very casual fans who only know, Stairway to Heaven, Rock and Roll, Whole Lotta Love, that sort of thing, I'm going to give you 10 really good deep tracks to check out in case you want to investigate the band further. Same thing for all sorts of other bands. So it's going to be deep track heaven for you guys. All right. But again, it's more of these kind of shows are more going to be for those people who are looking to dive deeper into some of these bands. And I'm mainly going to pick bands who have notable hits, okay, and popular songs. So don't expect like a, deep cut dive for Atomic Rooster, in other words. Okay, all right. So it's good. You've already, you can go back to my top 10 songs or ranking the albums for that kind of stuff for the more obscure bands. This is more going to be for the kind of the notable acts. All right. So to try and talk about some of what are some of those great deep cuts beyond the classics that everybody knows, right? So that's going to be coming in the weeks ahead, right? So stay tuned for that. We have other ranking the album shows on my list. I have to look through and see which ones we're going to kind of pop out, and then I'm going to actually be taking some vacation time the week after next, so I'll be able to pop out all sorts of stuff. I'm going to really kind of knuckle down on some ranking the album shows that I've been kind of talking about and haven't gotten to. So we'll be doing that. So lots of stuff coming, guys. Lots of stuff. So again, thanks everybody for all your views, all your attention to the channel, all your cool comments, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys later on. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.